The Bingus, the most perfect of animals, in my correct opinion. He scrinkles, he toesies, a creature, you understand? But why is the Bingus? This creature was not created by God, nay, but by man. This thing was not on Noah's Ark, okay? No matter how many little fucking fuckboys keep trying to tell me, the Bingus mother, that they're this magical ancient Egyptian breed that was worshipped as gods. No. This baby is an invention of the 1970s. One of the biggest breed registries in the world, the International Cat Association, defines the Sphinx as having a wedge-shaped head with prominent cheekbones, large lemon-shaped eyes, very large ears with hair on the inside but soft down on the outside base, a well-muscled, powerful neck of medium length torso, barrel-chested, and a full, round abdomen, sometimes called a potbelly, paw pads thicker than other cats, giving them the appearance of walking on cushions, a whip-like tapering tail from body to tip, sometimes with fur all over the tail or a puff of fur on the tip like a lion, and a muscular body. Sphinx characteristics have become quite standardized now after decades of breeding, but hairless cats have fascinated people long before it was an established breed. Hairlessness in cats kinda just happens sometimes for fun. It's a mutation. The specific mutated gene that makes Sphinxes hairless is a recessive gene, so not all cats who are born with the gene are hairless. They might be carriers who can pass it on to their children. The mutation itself essentially makes their hair follicles extremely weak. Like, they just have really garbage hair follicles, which is why their hair doesn't grow past this little light peach fuzz that they have. Examination of Sphinx hairs under a microscope compared to normal cat hairs found them to be quote-unquote grossly abnormal and lacking hair bulbs. I've also found that with my own cat Kaushik, his hair is really easily, pulled out, I guess. If he grazes himself against the coffee table while he and his brother are chasing each other around like crazy little freaks, he'll, take off a patch of peach fuzz. The Sphinx breed that we have today, if you have a Sphinx cat today, if you have a Bingus, it is descended from a group of hairless cats that were found living in Minnesota and a group of hairless cats that were found living in Toronto that were bred together and then also bred with the Devon Rex breed to create some genetic diversity. I've known about this for a while. I did some research before I got my cat. However, it occurred to me recently that if it's a mutation that can occur at random, there must have been all these random little Binguses running around throughout history. There was totally some farm in 1573 that had a little Bingus running around. I don't know if that's true, but it very well could be. So I started doing a little research to see if I could find out anything about these historical hairless cats, and oh boy, did I find some things out about these historical hairless cats. I'm obsessed with them, and I'm very excited to tell you about them, but before we get into that, I've also got to tell you a little bit about this video's sponsor, HelloFresh. They offer 40 different chef-crafted recipes for you to choose from every week, so you'll always get to try something new. Usually when I'm feeling a little uninspired by what's in my fridge and I want to try something new, I end up getting takeout, but HelloFresh is actually a lot healthier and cheaper than getting takeout all the time. This week, Kristen and I made the halloumi burgers, which were very fun and tasty. It, takes all of the stress and effort out of cooking. Everything is pre-portioned, so you're just ooh, okay, I'm on a cooking show where everything is magically pre-prepped. You get to skip all the meal planning and the grocery shopping and just do the fun part. So if you have found yourself in a funk of eating cereal for dinner, or bored of your usual cooking staples, it's a great way to spice things up and keep yourself eating healthy. I know for a fact that I spent most of my university years in that funk, so if classes are about to start up for you in September, you're about to get a lot busier, something to consider. So remember to go to HelloFresh.com, you can click the link in the description below, and use code 50StrangeAeons for 50% off and free shipping. That is 50StrangeAeons for 50% off plus free shipping. And now I return you to your regularly scheduled content. Okay, so before we get into the historical hairless cats, let's quickly review the current hairless and hypoallergenic cat breeds, because there's a few of them, but I'm really mostly talking about Sphinxes in this video, and I want no confusion. Firstly, there's the Donskoi. They're very similar in looks to Sphinxes, but the two are actually not related. The Donskoi originated in Russia in the 1980s. Interestingly, the gene which makes Donskoi cats hairless is dominant, so all cats born with the gene will be hairless. The Peterbald is a cross between the Donskoi and an Oriental Shorthair. The Cornish Rex originated in Cornwall in the 1950s. They have a very short, curly coat of hair which doesn't really shed much, so they're more one of the hypoallergenic or non-shedding breeds than hairless entirely. The Cornish Rex's curly coat is, like the Sphinx's hairlessness, a mutation that was selectively bred for. Devon Rex originated in Devon in the 1960s. According to the International Cat Association, the father of the Devon Rex breed was a feral tomcat with a curly coat who lived in an abandoned tin mine. I don't know, I just like the idea of that guy. It was originally thought that this cat that was discovered and its kittens would be able to contribute to the Cornish Rex breeding program, but it turned out that the gene that caused the Devon Rex's curly fur was different from the gene that caused the Cornish Rex's curly fur. DNA analysis in 2010 actually found that the Devon Rex's unique coat and the Sphynx's hairlessness are different mutations of the same gene. The Selkirk Rex is also a variation on that same gene. They have like long curly fur, so that's pretty interesting. There are some other differences between Devon Rexes and Cornish Rexes as well. Cornish Rexes are generally lankier. Devon Rexes have a very distinctive, like kind of flat, pixie-like face. My Devon Rex Casper, alleged Devon Rex, he's a freak. I won't get into it. But he definitely does have that very flat Devon Rex face, and I find that he kind of breathes like a pug at night sometimes, which I didn't know could be the case with cats, but apparently so. He's also so much dumber than my Sphinx, which I don't think is common. I think Devon Rexes are generally known as a smart breed. I think that's just a Casper special. So in addition to these breeds I've just listed that have a few decades of history, there are some newer ones as well. Variations on the Sphinx, such as the Bambino, the Elf, the Dwelf. These are still what you would call experimental breeds. They're considered ethically questionable by some. The Sphinx breed has already had a lot of problems with there being a limited gene pool. We will get into that. Health problems with the breed have decreased a lot over time, thanks to breeders who are attentive to keeping their gene pools diverse and healthy, but continuing to inbreed these cats with multiple mutations for aesthetics rather than health is maybe not the greatest practice. And I really want that to be something that you're aware of if you are an aspiring weird cat owner. Oh my god, hi! A special guest star! Sir, this is my Devon Rex. If you can't tell, he's got a little foof. But only a little bit. Not enough to look like a normal Devon Rex. Possibly the earliest account that we have of the hairless mutation in cats is from a 1930 book, Natural History of the Mammals of Paraguay. At least in English that's the title, it was originally written in German. The author observed a population of what he called the scant-haired cat. He suggested that they might be descendants of European house cats that had been brought over in the 1600s that had adapted to the warmer climate. I wasn't going to include this account because it seemed kind of minor to me at first, but having now researched the rest of this video, I have returned to the Paraguayan scant-haired cat. And this is interesting, okay? Because what we're gonna see from here on out is a lot of, like, 1 or 2 cats appearing in a litter and rarely reproducing successfully. So the idea that there might have been, even briefly, in the 1830s, a noticeable wild population of binguses running around Paraguay, that's amazing! The next record that we have of some hairless cats is an article published in the Boston Post in 1879. It regards 2 hairless cats who appeared in the Boston Cat Show named Scud and Mystery. According to the article, their mother is a common Maltese cat, and by her these prodigies... Do they mean progenies? Is that a typo? Anyway, by her these prodigies, probably progenies, were disowned and neglected from birth. One can scarcely wonder at her conduct, for they look more like dogs than cats, and it is asserted that they have many habits that do not commonly manifest themselves in the members of the feline family. They move very nimbly around the large cage in which they are, and are the cause of many curious surmises as to their origin. Victorian-era cat shows were not exactly like the cat shows of today. Today you see cats being displayed in shows for their impressive pedigree, their perfection, and that was the case back then too, but there was also a minority of cats who were displayed as like curiosities. Cats who maybe had deformities, were otherwise medically interesting, or even had interesting life stories. Like apparently, at one point there was a big trend for shipwrecked cats. Like cats that had survived shipwrecks. People went crazy for it, apparently. Victorian cat shows were like, and here you see Monsieur Pussytinkles, the most exquisite and voluptuous of the Persians. And over there, well, that's One-Eyed Stink. He was raised by pirates, only drinks rum and eats glass. He was shipwrecked off the coast of Guam, swam 16 miles back to shore, and was made honorary prince of the local tribes. Hairless cats were kind of like that for people. And lucky for all of us serious historians over here, that means we've got a lot of really interesting old records of their appearances at cat shows and things. Oh, hello! The proliferation of photography only made things even more interesting. These are the first hairless cats ever photographed. Their names were Nellie and Dick, and they were born in Albuquerque, New Mexico, somewhere between 1893 and 1895, depending on two contradictory accounts that Nellie was either 13 or 15 when she died in 1908. The photos of them that we have were likely taken when they appeared at the 1898 Chicago Cat Show. Their picture was subsequently published in an account of the cat show in Harper's Bazaar, where they were described as the only hairless cats in Christendom. Unlike the modern Sphinx, Nellie and Dick did have whiskers and experienced quite a bit of seasonal hair growth. Apparently they would grow like ridges of hair down their backs in the winter. Today there are some Sphinxes that are like completely uncooked chicken naked, and there are some that have a bit of peach fuzz, and generally the ones with the peach fuzz, it does tend to like thicken and darken a little bit depending on the season. I do find that that's the case with my cats, but it's flipped. I find that they grow more hair in the summer. Can't tell you why that is. We don't know what it was that caused Nellie and Dick's hairlessness, if it was the same gene that causes Sphinx hairlessness today, Donskoy hairlessness, something else entirely. They were never successfully bred. They were from the same litter, so breeding them together was a no-no of breeding ethics, and even if people had decided to resort to that, they couldn't, because Dick escaped the house one night and was eaten by wild dogs, and another suitable mate for Nellie was never found. Her owner also apparently feared that pregnancy would alter her beautiful, perfectly shaped form. This unique, unheard of type of cat was named the Mexican Hairless. Their owner, a Mr. Sphynx, explained that they were not a new type of cat. In fact, Nellie and Dick were the last survivors of an ancient Aztec breed, and they had been gifted to him by the local Pueblo people. Nellie and Dick became something of local celebrities. The Albuquerque Citizen reported in 1903 that Sphynx had given a photo of them to President Roosevelt. When the president saw his old Oyster Bay business card of 1870, which read, "Wright and Sphynx, Carriage Builders, Oyster Bay, Long Island," the president was greatly pleased, and clasping Sphynx's hand said he remembered him well, and was glad to see an old Oyster Bay man out in this fine country. Sphynx gave him a little present for his sick boy Archie. It was a large photo of Aztec cats raised by the Indians, and the only two hairless cats known in captivity. Both the president and Secretary Loeb were greatly pleased with the picture. Nellie and Dick's photos were published a number of times, including in the 1903 Book of the Cat, where they were accompanied by a letter from Sphynx where he wrote, "I have found them the most intelligent and affectionate family pets I have ever met in the cat line. They are the quickest in action, the smartest cats I have ever seen. They are fond of a warm bath and love to sleep under the covers at night with our little girl. They seem to understand nearly everything that is said to them, but I never had time to train them. They are marked exactly alike, with mouse-colored backs, with neck, stomach, and legs a delicate flesh tint. Their bodies are always warm and soft as a child's. They love to be fondled and caressed, and are very playful. They will run up and down your body and around your waist like a flash. Nellie weighs about 8 pounds and Dick weighed about 10 pounds. I'm sorry to say, we have lost Dick. We have never allowed them to go out of the house, as the dogs would be after them. They were very fond of our water spaniel and would sleep with her. Dick was a sly rascal and would steal out. One night last year, he stole out and the dogs finished him. His loss was very great, as I may never replace him. In the winter they have a light fur on the back and ridge of the tail, which falls off in warm weather. They stand the cold weather same as other cats. They are not like the hairless dog, whose hide is solid and tough. They are soft and delicate, with very loose skin. Nellie has a very small head, large amber eyes, extra long mustache and eyebrows. Her voice is now a good baritone. When young, it sounded exactly like a child's. They have great appetites and are quite dainty eaters. Fried chicken and good steak is their choice. Yeah, my cats fucking wish. They have never been sick an hour. Dick was a very powerful cat, could whip any dog alone. His courage, no doubt, was the cause of his death. He always was the boss over our dogs. I have priced Nellie at $300. She is too valuable a pet for me to keep in a small town. Many wealthy ladies would value her for her weight in gold if they knew what a rare pet she is. I think in your position she would be a very good investment to exhibit at a cat show and other select events, as she is doubtless the only hairless cat now known." But that might not have been the case, because you see, in the same year, another book, Rabbits, Cats, and Cavies by Charles H. Lane, was published in England. The author was aware of Sphynx cats and included a section in the book on the Mexican Hairless breed, saying that he had found one of these specimens in England. It makes it a little unlikely that they were some kind of ancient Aztec breed then, don't you think? The cat was named Jesuit and belonged to a Mrs. McLaren Morrison, who was known to be a collector of exotic cats and dogs. Lane wrote, "I hope it may prove that they are not quite extinct, as they are different from any other variety with which the writer is acquainted, and so rare as to be exceedingly valuable to all students of natural history, irrespective of their interest to cat lovers." He included an illustration of this cat, Jesuit, which led to a lot of speculation that this cat was Nellie, who had in fact been sold to a wealthy lady as a pet, as Sphynx had hinted in his letter. Because, like, that's the same cat, but we know now that Mrs. Morrison's cat was not Nellie, maybe there was still some kind of mix-up. Maybe whoever drew this illustration had seen the photos of Sphynx cat, and those were an influence. There's possibly other reasons why they look so similar. I cannot tell you what the truth is, but we know that Nellie did in fact live out the rest of her life in Albuquerque with Sphynx's family. In 1908, Sphynx planned to take her to Washington to visit with the president, and then on to the Atlantic Cat Club's championship show. The Albuquerque Journal reported, Nellie, TJ Sphynx's hairless Aztec cat, left last night with a last plaintive departing yowl on Santa Fe train number 8 for the national capital, where she will exercise the ancient privilege expressed in the familiar adage that a cat may look at a king, or a president. The Honorable Theodore Roosevelt will receive Nellie in a private audience, and the Albuquerque hairless wonder will arch her back, glare green-eyed defiance, and raise Cain generally if any aspersions are cast on her authenticity. When she has seen the sights of the capital, Nellie will be taken charge by Dr. Cecil French, a well-known cat enthusiast, who will take her to New York City to exhibit her at the annual cat show, which will be held in Madison Square Garden, commencing December 30th. Nellie represents a species that is unknown on the banks of the Mohawk or Long Island, and is expected to create a sensation in the exhibition. But unfortunately, at the time that they left on this trip, Nellie was already in her teen years and extremely ill, weeks to live at most, according to the autopsy that was conducted, and she did pass away after only one night of the journey. Her loss was announced at the opening of the cat show, and it really was a loss to the cat community at the time because she was somewhat of a celebrity. She was the only hairless cat in America that was known of. The New York Times reported, the animal was regarded as something more than a curiosity because of the antiquity attributed to its species, and it was stated by Dr. Cecil French of the Atlantic Cat Club that with the consent of the owner, TJ Sphynx, the hairless body would be presented to the Museum of Natural History here, and may be offered in evidence that the cat had a part in Aztec as well as Egyptian civilization. For some reason, I do not think they found that evidence. They were an ancient Aztec breed gifted to him by the local indigenous people. Absolute nonsense, absolutely stinks of 19th century white people. Anyway, despite this, Nellie's body was in fact donated to the Smithsonian. In 1937, the Journal of Heredity published a letter from Henry Sternberger, a cat dog from North Carolina. Around the middle of August 1936, a curious litter of kittens was born to a perfectly ordinary appearing pet cat belonging to Mrs. Annie Mae Gannon of Wilmington, North Carolina. Of the entire litter, only one of the kittens is perfectly normal in appearance, the other three being freaks. One of the cats has no tail at all, another only a stub of a tail, but the extraordinary member of this feline family is the fourth. Well, we can hardly call it a cat, so for want of a better name, we'll call it Nonesuch. He called this cat Nonesuch. Henry Sternberger, I'll fucking kill you. I'll kill for Nonesuch. Look at her little face! I'll kill you! It is said that before the kittens were born, the mother cat was often engaged in fights by a mixed breed dog in the neighborhood, on several occasions was badly frightened by the dog. This is about the only plausible explanation as to why the Nonesuch is so unusual in appearance. The first time I read this, I was like, does this man think the cat fucked the dog? Does this man deadass think that it's half dog? That is thankfully not the case. What he's actually referencing is a long disproven medical theory called maternal impression, which says that, like, the thoughts and the emotional state of a woman while she is pregnant can influence the sort of child that she gives birth to. Yeah, that was the explanation for birth defects, so wow, it's such a cool time to be a woman. I love that. So in this case, the mother cat's rivalry with this local dog was the reason that she gave birth to a dog thing? In fact, this little animal, now about 2 months old, is about the queerest looking creature one could hope to set eyes upon. Its face is that of a black, white, and yellow spotted dog. Its ears are quite long and sharp pointed. It has the short pointy whiskers of a puppy, the hind legs are amusingly bowed, it has a stub tail. What makes the Nonesuch even more unusual appearing is the short, smooth dog hair all over its cat-like body. From the moment of its birth, which was about 12 hours after the rest of the litter, the Nonesuch was surprisingly independent in its actions. It was born with its eyes opened, and was able to crawl a little, two characteristics quite unknown to newborn kittens. Side note, today that is still highly uncommon for the average domestic short-hair kitten, but it is pretty common in Sphinx kittens. The Nonesuch acts both like a cat and a dog. While it makes a noise like a cat, it sniffs its food like a dog. Nothing delights the Nonesuch more than gnawing on a bone in a very dog-like manner. When resting, little Nonesuch places its paws straight out in front, just as a dog would do. The little creature doesn't relish playing with the rest of its family, being entirely contented in stretching out and watching the others frolic about. Despite her apparent shocking freak appearance, Henry Sternberger, I'll kill you. Nonesuch was actually the healthiest of her litter, being the only one of them to make it into adulthood. Later that year, the journal published another letter from Sternberger regarding Nonesuch. Nonesuch has a birthday, and kittens. Nonesuch, the freak cat owned by Mrs. Annie Mae Gannon. Look at this. I love her! Is now a year old. 4 kittens were born to this strange dog-like animal about 6 weeks ago. All of the kittens are perfectly normal appearing. 2 of them are spotted with black and white, and brown, a third is black and white, and the 4th is a tabby. The father of the kittens is unknown. Nonesuch has a long, dog-like neck, and her head, ears, and shoulders resemble those of a fox terrier. Very fitting that the boys are rambunctious for today's filming. Her sparse whiskers are short, bristly, and straight. Her entire body, except for her stomach, which is as smooth as the palm of one's hand, is covered with fuzz, which is black, white, and brown in color. Nonesuch becomes alert as a dog if someone whistles for her. She stretches out her forepaws in a dog-like manner while resting. While frightened, she acts very much like a dog would do in similar circumstances, her conduct in this respect being in marked contrast to the other members of the cat family, who arch their back when danger approaches. In spite of all of these unusual characteristics, Nonesuch produced a litter of perfectly normal kittens. What would the next generation show when these kits are cats and have kittens of their own? The editors of the journal expressed the theory that the Nonesuch complex, as they called it, was the result of a recessive mutation rather than maternal impression, and that they would like to genetically test her and perhaps do some inbreeding to verify if this is the case. As far as I know, no evil mad scientists and unethical breeders ever got their hands on her. She never pops up in the media again, so I want to hope that she lived out a good, happy, quiet life. Meanwhile, hairless cats, or Le Chat Nu, were appearing in Paris. A pair of ordinary Siamese cats had produced a litter containing some hairless kittens. In 1938, a French professor, Etienne Letard, who was involved with these hairless Siamese cats in Paris, read about Nonesuch and replied to the Journal of Heredity in his own letter titled Hairless Siamese Cats. He included these photos of the cats, 2 views of hairless Siamese kittens, 12 hours old, and their parents. All of them are hairless, though one has a thin coat of short hairs. Note the fur distinctly visible on the kittens. This is especially thick on the ears and in the axes of the limbs. It disappears in a few days, being followed a short time later by another transitory coat. The 2 accounts of Nonesuch, the alleged cat-dog hybrid in the journal, have greatly interested the writer because he has had the opportunity to study a startlingly similar variation in Siamese cats. The accompanying photographs show the appearance of the hairless cats, whose resemblance to Nonesuch is obvious. Letard had actually succeeded in breeding multiple generations of these hairless cats and identifying the cause as a recessive gene. A pair of Siamese cats, perfect in type, with normal hair and coloring, produced from time to time 1 or 2 hairless kittens in a litter consisting of otherwise normal kittens. From these periodically appearing hairless individuals, we have been able to create a strain of hairless cats, which we believe to be entirely pure, carrier and naked Siamese cats. On the left is a normally haired Siamese cat, which mated to a normal haired male produced hairless offspring. She thus carries the recessive hairless gene. At right, a mature hairless Siamese cat, the type of this recessive mutation. If one mates one of the 2 individuals who have produced this mutation with other normal Siamese cats, a hairless kitten has never been produced. Only the mating of the 2 individuals in question produces the mutation. The crossing of a hairless animal with other normal individuals has never produced a hairless cat. We have mated 2 hairless cats, brother and sister. 3 hairless kittens were the result. Thus we find ourselves in possession of a strain, apparently already stable, which might be the origin of a distinct race, resuscitating the ancient race of so-called Mexican hairless cats, which is believed to be extinct. Ah, Shinnick, you really ruined it for everyone. The fact that this mutation was observed in animals which have always lived in Paris proves again that it is not always in special environments that one has to search for visible variations, and emphasizes again the random nature of spontaneous changes in inherited characteristics, which appear to be one of the basic mechanisms of organic evolution. This is like crazy, okay? Because it's Toronto-based breeders in the 1960s who are usually credited Casper. I'm making a video, Casper! Mummy's making a video! It's Toronto-based breeders in the 1960s who are pretty much always credited with identifying hairlessness as a recessive trait and successfully breeding the cats for the first time. This completely blows that out of the water. It was the French! There are a few other sources I came across about this breeding program in Paris. They are written in French and I cannot read them. I can assume that it must have succumbed to the same fate as some later breeding programs we're going to talk about, which is that the gene pool they were working with was simply not big enough to sustain a new breed. Throughout the next few decades, hairless cats appeared in magazines, journals, newspapers all over the world. They were local celebrities, cat show curiosities. They were all over America, in France, in Morocco, even in Australia. Oh my god, look at this one from Australia, her furry little kittens! But still, no breeding efforts had ever been long-term successful. In 1957, a cat fancier by the name of Fernand Mary wrote, "It is true that completely naked cats also exist, cats without fur, among which we have succeeded in determining a strange mutation linked to a recessive gene." Did the race of hairless cats actually exist in Mexico? No. Did it originate from the short-haired cats of Paraguay? Are they beautiful? That is a different matter. But should you be tempted to possess one, it would be useless to look for one on the market. There are no hairless cats professionally bred. They are simply a curiosity of creation. It wasn't until the 1960s that breeding efforts really kicked off. A California-based couple called the Murrays acquired a male cat named Silky, born to Siamese parents. He was bred with a Siamese female and produced a litter of hairless cats with stubby whiskers and wrinkly skin. The Murrays named their new breed Moon Cats and started Moonglow Cattery. In 1966, Murray told the Independent Press Telegram that hairless cats had been a part of ancient Chinese civilization, and then of course there was the ancient Aztec breed of the Mexican Hairless. Fucking heckshinick. You just had to go and do it. You should have said you rescued them from a shipwreck. Also in the 1960s, a hairless kitten named Prune was born in the Roncesvalles neighborhood of Toronto. He was quickly scooped up by a U of T grad student named Riyad Bawa. His mother, Yania Bawa, was already an experienced Siamese breeder. The two of them teamed up with some other local breeders. They all conspired to create this new hairless breed. It's like, what, the 7th time that everyone's conspired to create the new hairless breed at this point? The Ottawa Journal reported in 1966, "Hairless cats for owners with allergies may soon be available," says Riyad Bawa, owner of a hairless tomcat named Prune, who is appearing at the Canadian National Exhibition this year. Bawa said in an interview today that chances are Prune can make cat history by becoming Big Daddy to a new breed of hairless cats in the next 5 or 6 years. Think what a boon that would be to cat lovers with allergies, said the University of Toronto graduate student. The cats must remain hairless for 7 generations to be recognized as a breed. Breeding Prune with cats unrelated to him did not succeed in producing any hairless cats. Breeding Prune with his mother, which is a breeding technique known as back crossing, did succeed in producing 16 normal kittens and 18 naked ones. They renamed the breed the Sphinx, which is cool. I do like the name Sphinx. But there is a part of me that kind of wishes it had been moon cats. Moon cats is so cute! They are moon cats! The emerging Sphinx breed was given provisional showing status by the Cat Fanciers Association, which is another breed registry like the International Cat Association, but it had that status revoked in 1971 when the breed ultimately proved to be unstable. The Toronto-based breeders were producing a lot of kittens who were extremely unhealthy and died young, or were infertile, which are both telltale signs of inbreeding. Say it with me, kids! The gene pool was not big enough to sustain a new breed. People were just learning over and over again in different countries that 1 or 2 mutants was not enough to base a new breed on. The last 2 cats from the Toronto breeding program were sent to a breeder in Holland, Dr. Hugo Hernandez, who also failed to breed them. Despite this, oh my god, you will see so many badly researched articles out there that state that this breeding program was successful, that Prune is the father of the modern Sphinx breed, that Roncesvalles, Toronto is the birthplace of the Sphinx. It's not true! No living Sphinxes today are traceable back to Prune. And it feels like a little bit of a personal betrayal to me, because I lived in Roncesvalles for a while, and at the time I believed this, and I was like, that's so cool. Bingus, this is your homeland! My neighbor saw me sitting on the porch with Kaushik on a harness once, and was like really excited to tell me about this. And I thought it was true. I thought it was true until now. 1975, Minnesota. A sickly stray cat wandered up to Milt Pearson while he was fishing one day. He fed the cat and brought it home to live among the many barn cats that lived on his farm. A 2012 article told the story of he and his wife and this cat they brought home. The mother cat had a litter of kittens, and one of them did not have any hair. The kitten grew fast and had a long tail, unusual eyes, and big ears. 6 months later, another litter brought 2 hairless kittens. They were so smart, Pearson said. The farm couple found them to be ideal pets. I wrote and sent a picture to University Farm at St. Paul, Pearson said, and they wrote back saying, "Get rid of them. They're a feral breed. They're going to ruin all the cats in your neighborhood. Get rid of them." Pearson said she couldn't bring herself to follow that advice. Those unique cats were so smart and loving and made good pets. Another time, she wrote to a cat show going on in Minneapolis, asking what they had to do to show a cat. Pearson recalled that the response was something along the lines of, "We are not going to show that feral cat you've got there. If you want to bring it in just to exhibit to us what people should not save in a cat, you can do that." At one point, the Pearsons had 14 of the unusual cats. They were nimble, playful, and looked like little old men. They were adorable, Pearson said. Epidermis and Dermis were the names of the mother cats, and the Pearsons had them for about 10 years. Without a coat to protect them from UV rays, the cats were especially vulnerable to sunburn. Milt built a separate cage so that they could be away from the sun and mosquitoes. The Pearsons and their cats appeared in newspapers, did the whole local celebrity thing, much like other cats earlier in the century. Little did they know that by this point, there were people in obscure cat fancier circles who were absolutely frothing to get their hands on some hairless cats. A lady came in one day and said she'd heard about the hairless cats and wanted to see them, Pearson said. The lady from Oregon asked if she was willing to sell them. Pearson said she'd picked a number out of the air that she thought was outrageous enough to discourage her, $200. She asked if she meant one or both, and Pearson said both. The lady took out her checkbook. Mrs. Pearson sold Dermis and Epidermis to a breeder named Kim Muesk, who then spent years trying to breed them with regular domestic shorthairs, shockingly, producing more regular domestic shorthairs. Another American breeder, Georgia Gattenby, also acquired 3 of the Pearsons' cats. She had much more promising results breeding them with Devon Rexes. Meanwhile, back in Toronto, in 1978, a cat breeder named Shirley Smith found a litter of kittens and their mother living on the streets, and one of the cats was naked. Here he is, his name was Bambi. It is maybe possible that these cats were some neglected offspring of the previous breeding program that had found their way onto the streets and continued spreading the hairless gene there. It is possible that this was another completely random instance of the mutation. Shirley Smith took the cats in immediately. The mother gave birth to 2 other litters, both of which contained hairless cats. Then in 1983, Smith sent 2 of those cats, named Punky and Paloma, to Hugo Hernandez in Holland, same guy who took the last remaining cats from the failed Toronto breeding program. He still had Prune's last living descendant in his care, and he was going to attempt to breed that cat with these newly discovered Toronto cats. That unfortunately did not work. He instead wound up breeding Punky with a Devon Rex, which produced a litter of kittens with varying degrees of hairlessness, which was good. That's pretty promising results. Over the next few years, Hernandez and numerous colleagues of his throughout Europe were able to build up like a relatively healthy Sphinx breed using Devon Rexes. However, it was ultimately the combination of genetics from the Toronto line discovered by Smith and the Minnesota line discovered by the Pearsons, which really created a strong, healthy, hairless breed, which stood the test of time. If you have a naked little Bingus today, these are their direct ancestors. That's so weird. Cat breeding is whack! I know this video is kind of weird and out of my usual wheelhouse, but I just really, really wanted to do it because I think it's super interesting and I love my cats, and I think that other Sphinx owners deserve to know about this too because it's not information that's that easy to find. Thank you so much for watching this video, my friends. I'll see you in another one very soon.